Welcome. I'm Rielly Karsh.
I'm Tovah Kopan.
We are thrilled to bring you the We Go Boldly podcast.
Let's talk big burning questions, life changes, and maybe a bit of personal business.
Let's be bold and brave together. Are you ready?
I am. Here comes the show. Hi, and welcome to We Go Boldly, the podcast where we celebrate women stepping into their power and living their most authentic lives. You may notice that I am speaking in a different voice. It is not Rielly using Tovah's voice. It is actually Tovah that is getting to run the show today, which is very exciting. But before we talk to our surprise guest, who you all figured out who it is at this point, I wanted to once again talk about our wonderful weekly women's circle. We find it fills our cup midweek in a very necessary way. Not that we can, pour a cup into other people's, but just so we have a nice full cup for ourselves. So if you are interested in learning more about the Women's Circle, an incredible community of like-minded women, head over to www.goboldlyinitiative.com/weekly circle to learn all about it. It is your space and our space to share, grow, and thrive alongside women who are as passionate about personal growth as you are. So sign up today and we can embrace this exciting journey that we call life, because it comes every single day, together. As you all know, in our 12th season, we are talking about being the authors of our own story. And this season is all about empowering you to write your own story, to share your story. And we have been featuring a wide variety of people in our interviews. And we are finally, sadly, but very exciting, because we're excited for our next 2 seasons.
True.
But sadly, we are at our final interview. But don't get too sad for too long, because it's super exciting, because I get to interview Rielly and put her on the hot seat. And I'm very, very excited and a little nervous. I'm not going to lie about that. Rielly was very kind last week to thread a nice needle between pushing me and not pushing too hard. And I just hope I can achieve the same balance. So all that being said, thank you so much for joining the show, Rielly.
Anytime, literally.
How are you doing today?
I am... I'm going to be very honest. I am not awesome. I am not great today. And we'll see how that reflects in my responses to our questions about writing your own story, because it has been and we try not to talk about how busy we are, because it's like, oh, I'm so busy. But it's legitimately been a very busy few weeks, and some of that stuff has been great and some has been horrible. We had Mel Blumenthal, who's like a longtime college friend of mine, on the show talking about like essentially medical malpractice, right? Like just the failure of the medical system to address the needs of women and young women and unmarried women, like just women as people. And I am in the midst of that, not like medical malpractice, I wouldn't say that, but like just not being heard and not being listened to. And it is like a daily frustration. And I think it's boiling over right now, like now. And so that is really impacting everything I do and say and think about on a daily basis. So yeah, that's how I'm doing.
Okay. Well, with that, let's start off with something easy, as you know we like to do.
Yep.
So similar to me, we didn't do a full biography. We're not doing a full biography of Rielly, but if you want to learn more about Rielly, go to our website or listen to any of the 223 episodes that we have previously recorded, which is insane, by the way.
Yeah. Props to us.
Yeah, props to us for like pushing out some content there and loving doing it. It's wild. I think most podcasts don't do more than 3 episodes. People are like, let's do a podcast. And I'm like, wait, this is not easy.
Oh my God, I have to do this forever.
Oh yeah. And the only way we can do it forever is if you support us financially. That's my plug.
Yeah. Please. Sign up, subscribe, all the things.
Yeah, subscribe, rate and review, all of those things. But I gave you a little time, a little break to refresh, and now we get to dive in with a big question. So how did you develop, or are you developing, a vision for your future?
So I am now developing a vision for my future. I did not have a vision for my future as a kid, other than away. right? That was my whole vision for my future, was somewhere else. And I think that's reflected in the fact that I spent, I don't know, hours and hours and hours reading and disappearing into imaginary worlds and creating safe and happy spaces in my mind that were places that I wanted to go to. You know, I will say out the gate of this conversation, I had a lot of dysfunction growing up, and I've spent a lot of time working through that. And my parents listen to the show. My dad's our producer. Like, I have worked very hard on those relationships, as have they. And so, all the things I talk about, and I try to be as open and transparent as possible about my childhood, because I think it helps other people, is to say that, like, they are very good. My parents are good people and I love them dearly, and like, we have worked through a lot of this stuff. But my vision, as a kid, I really thought I would be a writer, and I am a writer. Like, it took me a long time to be able to say out loud, like, I'm a writer. I still haven't written the book I want to write, and that will happen. But I wanted to travel, I wanted to see the world, and I wanted to write. And that was my vision forever. And it sprinkled in there was like, I, you know, a ton of, I want to help people. I want to help, particularly environmental justice. Like, I was very focused on that at a very young age. I try not to think too hard about it right now, because then I go into like existential tailspin. But I used to write like poetry about smokestacks and how they were ruining everything. Like, I was very into that world. And then, life happened and things changed, and I kind of went through a lot of different phases. And then I went to college, and then I wanted to be an artist, because art is like my, I don't know, it feeds my soul. And then I realized, oh, I have to pay a bill, and I got very scared, and I made other decisions. And then when I graduated from college, it was a recession. So I took the job I could get, and that was being a child protective services agent, which is a whole other podcast episode that we could have, maybe a series of episodes, because
Yeah.
I was 22 and working in Arizona as a child protective services agent. And, that was a massive experience to have at that age, to have that level of responsibility and witness the kinds of things you witness in that environment. And the injustice of some of it, right? Like, the way in which the system fails not only kids but parents and citizens and all these things. And all of that eventually led me to law school, which was a terrible idea. I don't regret it, because I learned so much and I became a stronger, better person for it. But like, I had no passion for the law. I still have no passion for the law. I think I needed to prove something to myself by doing it, and I did that. And I worked at a big law firm on Wall Street, and I did that, and I left on sort of my own terms. And now here we are. Like, there's a whole bunch in between there, right? Like, I've started a bunch of businesses, and I help my husband with his business, and like, I do a lot of other things. But yeah, so I don't know if I actually answered the question, Tova, but that's my answer.
Yeah, well, you did. And I'm wondering, I mean, I know some of the stuff, and then some of the stuff I don't know.
Sure.
So you've had this vision, and your vision has essentially stayed the same, right? And there were times that you weren't in line living a life aligned with it, and then there have been times that you have been more living a life that aligned with it. But it's inherently a privileged question to ask.
Yeah.
Because being able to sit around and be like, oh, what is my vision for the future? And I think a lot of people that we've asked have not, there's ways to do it in the confines of like needing to pay for things. And we've talked to them, but my question for you is, how did it feel, or how did you feel when you were not in alignment with your vision? Because it sounds like your vision has essentially been the same.
Yeah. It felt like depression, right? Like, if you've ever been depressed, and I have been, I struggle with depression. That is, more so than anxiety for me. Depression is sort of my albatross. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I had a lot of environmental causes, but I also had, I'm sure, chemical causes that were creating that depression in me. But when I was practicing law, like the first year, I felt great. And I think you talked about this a little bit, Tova. Like, I wanted the cookie, I wanted the gold star, I wanted somebody to tell me I was doing good enough so that I felt like I was enough. And what I realized through the years of doing that is there was no gold star. There was no thing that somebody else could have said to me that would make me feel like I was enough, because I internally did not feel like I was enough, right? And so nobody can fill that void for you. And a lot of therapy and growing later, I started to understand that, which is part of the reason I left the law, because um I wasn't getting any of that satisfaction. And when you are constantly feeling unworthy and like you can't possibly reach the bar that you've set, um, you become depressed, right? Like you just become miserable. And I would come home from work when I got to go home from work because I was working so much. And I would just lay down on the couch and go to sleep. And that was what I did. And that's clearly a sign of depression, right? Like there's no, if that's what you're doing every single day, not once in a while, but like literally every day. And my husband says he like couldn't even talk to me for an hour or two after I got home from work because I just couldn't be human. So that was really that really felt like you could feel it in your body and in your spirit. And I think other times too, when I had so many different degree options in college, which frankly, like I can't imagine at 18 knowing who you are enough to like pick a degree, but good for people who do. And even at this age, if I went back to college, I wouldn't be able to pick a degree. I would want all the degrees because I want to know everything. And but there were times where I was like, I did journalism for a little while and I was like, oh, this feels icky. And so, I did listen to myself for those things, maybe not for the law school thing, which I knew first semester of law school that was the wrong choice. And yet was not willing to, quote, quit on seeing it through, even though I probably would have been a much happier, healthier person had I made that change at the time.
So we need to take a quick break. But when we come back, I want to know if you think that how your childhood, early experiences got you making decisions that were going against, yesterday or last week when we ended up talking about my vision. We talked a lot about it almost as like the mission statement concept. Like this long-term vision for how we see our life. So what made it so that for a really long time, you were willing to make decisions that were going against your vision for yourself? So sit tight. We'll take a quick break and then we'll be right back.
Well, hey there, dream chaser. Are you ready to make the next 12 months of your life unforgettable? Introducing the Year of You, a groundbreaking new goal system group that's about to redefine the way we approach personal growth. Join us with a community of like-minded individuals committed to unlocking their full potential. With expert guidance, personalized strategies, kind-hearted accountability, and a supportive network, the Year of You is more than just a goal-setting group. It's a whole movement. Don't just dream about it, achieve it. Click in the link in our show notes or go ahead and visit us at goboldlyinitiative.com/year of you to learn more today. Let's embark on a transformative journey together towards becoming the best versions we can be. The Year of You, where your goals become reality.
All right, welcome back. So I left you with that question of, it sounds like for quite a long time you made decisions that were not in alignment with your vision. Why do you think that was?
Yeah, so many reasons. I struggled with very severe depression, very severe. And I think a lot of times when you have depression, you're not really like in tune with who you are, right? You're not in tune with what's going on inside your body, inside your spirit, all those things, and you're just trying to get through the day. And so that's one major reason. I am absolutely a recovering perfectionist, I very much struggled with the concept of like you could try something, not like it, and do something else. I didn't have that knowledge. I don't know. I didn't have that skill that I have now where I can be like, oh, I really don't like crochet. I'm not doing that anymore. Um, and so I stuck with things, and we've talked about this before, Tova. Like I can see that the house is on fire, but I'm sitting in the fire.
Right.
And part of it is, I don't remember anyone being like, don't be a quitter when I was a kid, but like also I remember feeling like you can't be a quitter. Um, and that was like a real judgy thing. Like if you gave up on something, you're a quitter. Um, and I also, never let myself fail at anything. Um, and that's all perfectionism. And that stems from, growing up in surrounded by substance abuse, surrounded by people who are perfectionists, surrounded by, an environment that didn't feel safe to me as a kid and a teenager and a young adult, frankly. And so being in that kind of environment causes you to find ways to make yourself feel safe. And one of those things that you can do, especially as a kid, is to control your environment and control your relationship to your environment. And so being perfect, never making mistakes, makes it safer. And it also gives you that false belief that, as I said before, that at some point you will be good enough that everything will change and get better. Like you'll be good enough that all the partners at the law firm will be really nice to you. You'll be good enough that like that person will stop drinking, or that person will show up and like love you the way you need to be loved. And there, that's obviously objectively impossible, but as a kid who grows up in that kind of environment, those are the things you're thinking. Maybe not like consciously like, oh, if I'm just good enough everybody will love me. But it is the reaction, and it's a known trauma response that I definitely struggled with, and it's to some extent still struggle with. That's an ongoing battle to work through.
So when you have found yourself in these, you said you were deeply depressed, and then there was also situational depression
Mm.
where kind of you got the bonus of both.
Yeah, fun.
And so I don't think it's fair to say, how did you get unstuck? Right? Because that minimizes, like it's like being stuck in like a ball pit versus being stuck in like dried cement,
Yeah.
right? Like, so how though did you find your way either out of the woods or to yourself? I don't know, it might be both, but how
Yeah.
did you find your way? Because you're not in that position now.
Right.
And as someone who's known you now for 5 years, you can feel when things are changing in a direction that you don't like, and you're aware. So what have you done in the past when you were, I mean, in the thick of it?
Yeah. Denial, a lot of denial. It's a bit of, drinking, and then therapy, like an enormous amount of therapy, and not, I don't want to say it this way, but like quality therapy, as
Yeah.
in the person that I was working with understood the assignment and showed up in a way that helped me. And that's specific to my relationship with this therapist, helped me like actually acknowledge what I was feeling and like grieve things that I needed to grieve and process the emotions and learn how to process emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Cause like I had no idea. I just didn't
Mm-hmm.
know how to do that. Um, that was the turning point. Like I think about it, like I had aha moments in different careers. Um, I remember being a child protective services agent and sitting in a Waffle House and being like, what am I doing? This is not my life. I'm not doing this.
Right.
And nothing really happened other than I was in a Waffle House and I was like, oh no. Sorry, Waffle House. But and then being in my law firm and look, thinking, like sitting in my office, I had just been told, like I had just gotten a review, and my partner that I was working for was like, I really thought you were stupid for the longest time. I'm so glad you're not. And I was like, I don't even know what to say to that
Right.
feedback. Like, okay, thanks, I think.
Right.
I'm glad I'm not too. But I remember sitting there and being like, well, this is clearly never going to work the way I want it to. But also, some of it is age, right? Like some of it is maturing. Some of it is having the hard conversations I had to have with my parents and my brother and some other family members about like the things that happened in my life and how hard those were, and having those be received in a way that helped me process. I think that's also huge. Like I am very fortunate in that for the most part, when I have reached out to people who I had challenging relationships with, they have been receptive and helped me heal. Um, and I am so privileged to have that because that is, I think, pretty rare. Um, I've totally lost the thread of what we were talking about, but
Well,
um,
on how you got out of the darkness.
so, and I think now I learned to trust myself once I, worked through a lot of that situational depression. I
Yeah.
still have struggles with the chemical side of things. And that is like that you can take medication, you can meditate, you can exercise. Like I do all those things. I mean, I don't take medication for it now, but I have, and I don't, there's, you should if you need it. Um, but I do all the things we talk about. Really, I meditate, I go outside, I touch grass, I talk to people. I don't have a therapist currently because I haven't found one I liked and my other one retired, but I will, if I need it, go to therapy. So those are like all the, it seems so basic, those things to do to like get yourself unstuck, but I have learned to understand what it feels like in my body and what my behaviors look like when things are going the way that I want them to, when things are aligned.
So you talked about you'd have these, I don't know, pivotal moments or aha moments or just like moments of enlightenment, I guess, where
Mm,
you're like sitting at the Waffle House. Are there other pivotal moments that you've had throughout your life where it, I don't know, where there's a clear before and after?
yeah. I mean, one that stands out for me, I was in Vienna. I forget what museum I was in, but all the Klimts were there. And I love Klimt. He's like probably my favorite painter. And there was the, he did some Adam and Eve series. And there was one, and it's a paint, it's not finished, and Eve is not finished in the picture, and I could not tell you why. I don't know, like the spirit came through me, I talked to my guides, I don't know, something happened as I was standing in front of that painting. And I was in law school at the time. I was there coaching a team, or no, I was there with a team that did international moot arbitration stuff. Real nerd fest, and it was fun. It was my favorite part of law school, truly. um, but I was standing in front of this painting going like, oh my God, I am also undone. And it just, it's always, for me, it feels illogical, right? Like there's no objective reason that that moment was a moment that changed my life. But I was in my second year of law school and I was like, well, this isn't working. Like, what are we going to do? And it took me a long time from that point forward to make a change. However, that was like, I can point to that moment as
Mhm.
like, this was the thing that like, sort of put the thought process into motion in my head that like, oh, I could do something else. My story doesn't have to be done here.
Um, it's amazing whether it's like a line in a book or a painting or something that can hit you like, I don't know, it's like the feeling of being like bowled over or something.
It was like I was talking to God. I mean, and people will hear me say that and be like, oh, okay, Riley, whatever. But really, that's what it felt like in the moment. And I'm not religious. I'm not Christian. I don't really follow any particular religious doctrine. It's not for me. Um, but I believe that there's more than us. And in that moment, more than us was chatting with me.
All right, we're going to take one more quick break. And I'm wondering, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you have been actively aware and working on living your life in accordance with your vision and principles for quite a while now. So when we come back, I'd love for you to share, like, are there specific things that you try to do on a daily, monthly, yearly basis that kind of helps keep you oriented to that vision? So we will take a quick break and we will be right back. Hey there, Pod family. Have you ever wished you could stay in the loop with a little slice of transformation and inspiration delivered straight to your inbox? Well, you're in luck because now you can. Introducing our fantastic newsletter, your VIP pass to all things exciting and informative. Join our community of growth minded souls. Get the hottest topics delivered right to your inbox. It's quick, easy, and totally free. Just head over to our website at goboldlyinitiative.com and sign up for our newsletter today. Don't miss out on the next big thing. Stay connected with us. Subscribe now and get ready for some big, bold love. All right, welcome back. So I left you with the question of, with your vision intact or your mission statement or whatever, what your principles that you are in alignment with, what do you do throughout your life to stay on track with those?
Yeah, it's a great question. We wrote it. And sometimes I'm like, I don't know. I'll start this with a roundabout explanation of I was born on a farm in the middle of nowhere to very hippie parents who were also basically children. And I grew up in that on that farm until I was 8, 9 years old. And in that 8 to 9 years, I experienced people from every walk of life, right? We were basically a hippie commune, and people would come live with us for periods of time. And like there was Steve the bread guy who would make bread, and there was my uncle who lived with us for the winters, and like, you know, the biker gang hung out at our house. Like we had people from every facet of the universe that you could imagine. And that really shaped my worldview of like being interested and curious about people and wanting to connect and wanting to have community and wanting to understand why people are the way they are and do what they do and all of those things. And so when I had the like dark ages of my life in the middle, I guess, where I sort of lost touch with a lot of that. And then I think at some point after being a lawyer and turning more to being creative and being political and being involved and engaged in my community and being a mom, frankly, like that obviously changed my life entirely. I haven't even touched on that yet. But I think it came full circle for me. And so I got back to that place I was at when I was a kid on a farm in the middle of nowhere, where my driveway was actually a mile long and it went uphill both ways. And, you know, it was a very different way of living and a way in which I was very much connected to the world around me. And so I've gotten back to that where if I start to feel like, my boundaries are slipping or I'm saying like I'm gossiping. I hate gossiping. And sometimes I do it and I feel icky afterwards. Um and not the good gossiping, the like snarky gossiping. Um but after those things happen, if I go back out into nature, if I go for a hike, if I go outside and stick my feet in the grass, that's something that helps me pull myself back to, okay, who am I? And like, what are my core values? And what do I want to create in the world? What kind of energy do I want to give to the world? So I do that. I meditate, I write. I think a lot of it is a daily mental check-in more than anything else of me being like, okay, self, here we are today. Like, what are we doing? Like, how are we navigating the world? And then, I mean, not because I want to pitch it because I want to pitch it, but our weekly women's circle really does help. Like, I've recently been far more open and that it's a struggle for me. But allowing myself to talk to those women in the group about things that are vulnerable and hard and like uncomfortable and connecting in that way helps me remember, okay, everybody else is struggling with these things too. Like come back to my body, like back into myself. So I don't know. I mean, I don't have like a morning routine. I wish I did because I used to, and it was great, but one day.
One day again.
Yeah.
So you touched on a moment and you said, "Oh, I haven't talked about the parenting thing."
Oh, yeah.
So let's talk about that before we wrap up. How has being a parent changed or highlighted, or like what effect has it had on your experience in writing your own story and following your vision for your life? How has being a parent affected that?
Yeah. So I had my daughter in 2012, and it was like a year and a half, maybe 2 years after I left my law practice. And I, like my whole person changed when I had her, and it changed for the better. Um, Other than my gray hair, it changed for the better in that I am an introvert, and I struggle socially. Like I feel very uncomfortable talking to new people. I feel very uncomfortable in groups. Um, it feels icky and strongly uncomfortable and hard to do. And then I had my daughter, and I was like alone and isolated, and I definitely struggled postpartum. And I had my mom, thank God, and she helped me. I know it's so much. And I had a business that I was running, which was great, but I didn't have that sort of community that I talked about before. I didn't have people who I could be myself around. And so, what I realized, I guess, is that one, nothing will ever be as hard as giving birth. And so, like, my fear level changed, which seems crazy because, like, I don't know, like, why was that the thing that made me less afraid of other people? But it did. And I also, you talked about this, Tova, like, who do I want my kids to see? Like, who do I want my daughter? I mean, now, listen, she's the most extroverted extrovert you'll ever meet, and she'll talk to a wall. But I didn't know that at the time. She was a baby. And so I didn't want to set that example of fear for her. And I didn't want to be alone all the time. And so that changed my whole way of interacting with the world. And I started talking to people more and being myself more. Now, like, she's 12 now, 13 almost. It's been a long process. Like, it wasn't perfect. I wasn't like a switch flipped and I was like, oh, now I'm great at this and I'm an extrovert. I'm still an introvert, and I'm still awkward and uncomfortable, as anyone has heard listening to us, when I'm trying to explain how bad small talk goes for me. Um, but I care less what other people think, and I care less about like somebody not liking me. Um, because one, I just don't have time, and two, like, I have my family. Like, I'm putting myself out there for them and for myself, but like it started out as for her. And having my son, who was born in 2000 December of 2016, um I was actively involved in politics when he was born, and he was my like little sidekick through all of that experience. And so he really like, unbeknownst to him, he really impacted my willingness to risk very hard conversations and to start businesses and to try new things that I might not have otherwise done. And both of my kids, really, because I don't, like, I look back and I'm like, okay, well, what do I want my kids to think in 30 years when they look back at this insane time we're living through? Do I want them to be like, oh, my parents really didn't do anything? Or do I want them to remember that I was not willing to sit by and let their futures be destroyed? Um, so all of that stuff came together and really had a massive impact on, how I interact in the world. Also, like, so much medical trauma, so much PTSD from like medical experiences with both kids and my husband. Um, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, I guess, is my point. But I do think it's had such a positive impact on who I am. Um, and it was not expected. I didn't expect any of that to happen. But it did. So it's good.
So, as we wrap up, speaking of the impact and the world, what impact do you want to leave on the world? Where, I think you struggled with this question too, asking me because of not saying goals, but like, where
Yeah.
do you see yourself in 5 minutes or 5 years or 5 decades? Let's go for it.
Yeah, this question is so hard because like I have so much ego and I want to be like I'm going to be writing like amazing books and everybody's going to listen to my advice and everybody's going to be better off for it. Um and I know that that's like
Clearly.
that's a lot of ego talking. However, you know, much like you, obviously I'm a helper. I'm a person who wants to make a difference in the world. Um and that has had to like my perspective on that has shifted over time, right? Because what is a helper and what is making a difference? Is it solving all the world's problems by yourself? No, that's very centering and like immature thought process, right? Like I want to leave the world better than it was. I want to be remembered as somebody who spoke up when something was wrong, who supported people who wanted to do the right thing. I want to be out there making a difference. And I want to live a life of joy, right? Like, I want to not be happy in the like, I've been listening to toxic positivity again, which probably wasn't the best choice, but whatever, I'm doing it. And I hate silver linings and I hate the pressure of always being positive about everything because it's so unrealistic. Um, and so I want to be joyful as much as possible. And I want to be present and enjoy the people around me and have real meaningful relationships. I want to be able to let down some of my walls and like be vulnerable and be out there having these sort of hard conversations. And I want to set a good example and I want my kids to be good people. I don't, you know, like those are the kinds of things I think about, but also, you know, I want to be on a book tour and have a yacht and like a mansion. So, you know,
I do want to highlight, setting aside the book tour and the mansion, which I think we would both like, because it'd be really fun to go on a book tour with each other.
yeah,
I'm gonna take a note from the Kylie Kelsey podcast because they talk a lot about like on this podcast we just manifest things, and I think it started with the Newer Heights podcast or New Heights podcast with Travis because he was like, I want to meet Taylor Swift, and then like the next thing you know, we all know
yeah,
he met Taylor Swift, and she's like, we just manifest things on here, so put it out what you want. So I'm going to highlight what you said about a book tour and us, you know, writing our dream books and being on book tour and the mansion and sure a yacht. I mean, cool. Um, but I want to highlight what you said because it's where your voice and your tone changed and you started getting more excited, which was living a life of joy and connection. And I think that I'm reflecting on a lot of the different stories we heard, and we've heard just wild stories. And we're going to have one more final episode next week where we talk about like the wrap up of all of that. But you, I think we can decide, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but if at the end of your life you have filled it with joy and connection and no book tour, which universe, we are not saying we don't want a book tour, as opposed to having a life without joy and connection, but a book tour, you would
right.
take the joy and connection.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um, and we both talked about how our definitions of being helpers have opened things up. We're just more open because what we want doesn't have to be pinned to getting the gold star, which is
Yeah.
insane that we're here. But yay to you.
Woohoo.
Um, Unless you have anything you'd like to add, I would love to hop to the quick response questions.
Well,
If
let's
you're
do it. I have
ready.
no answers for these, so this should be painful for me.
Yay. I'm so excited. Okay. What's your favorite way to unwind after a long day?
I like to sit in my office at my little chair that I have here and read my book and ignore everyone.
Awesome. What's one thing on your bucket list that you haven't done yet?
There's so many things. Like I've done a boatload of things, but I also want to do all the other things in the world. And I have thought about this question all season long and I have no answers other than like I want to go to South America. I want to go to the rainforest. I would like to skydive. I want to write a book. There's so many things. I am so curious about everything and I want to do it all.
What's your go-to comfort food?
Potatoes. Any format, preferably fried, but you know.
Yeah, not to hop on your story, but I know yesterday I was like mashed potatoes, no baked potatoes, and then I can picture it, and that is a comfort food. But like, there's something about French fries, man.
I mean, I talked about this in physical therapy today. Like they were like talking about cake, and I was like, yeah, but potatoes.
It's funny because I have a sweet tooth, but yeah, some French
I don't.
fries.
I have a
I
fatty
know.
potato tooth.
um, if you could instantly master any skill, what would it be?
Yeah, I've thought about this one a lot too, and there's like 12 2 billion. But the one I'm going to say is I would be really good at singing, and then I would be a singer, and it would be amazing.
Yes, that's awesome. And lastly, describe yourself in 3 words.
Um, okay. Adventurous, and not in the tawdry way you imagined. Tovah. Definitely adventurous, curious, and loyal.
Mm, yes, you are. Interesting that we had 2 of the same
Yeah.
words. And potatoes.
And
So
potatoes.
we can build a whole relationship off of
Adventurous,
like,
curious potatoes. I like it.
listen, I would do a tour of New Jersey of like the 5 best places to eat potatoes.
Uh,
Like,
let's do it.
I mean, I'm in. I wonder if that exists. Let's make it exist. Anyway, thank you so much, Rielly, for joining your own podcast today.
Happy to do it.
We will be back with one more week of this season before we jump into a new one, but we're going to wrap it all up. We're going to talk about the power of writing your own story and sharing your own story and all of that good stuff. So come back next week for the last week in July, which is impossible because while this year has been the longest year of my life, because of the hellscape that we're all existing in, it also seems to have flown by. I don't understand. So with that, don't forget to go and rate and review and subscribe and all those good things on all the places. Come check out our women's circle. But we will talk to you next week. And we hope you all have a wonderful week. And I will channel Rielly and say, and don't forget to set those boundaries.
Yes, definitely.
Thanks so much for listening to We Go Boldly podcast. We know you're busy and we love spending time with you.
If you enjoyed this week's episode, let us know. Head to Apple Podcasts right now to rate and review our show. While you're there, be sure to click that subscribe button.
Want more us time? Follow us on all the socials at Go Boldly Together.
Want even more us time? As in all the coaching pizzazz. Find us at goboldlyinitiative.com for all the info.
We will be back with more excitement, research, and deep thoughts next week.
Until then, keep on being the bold, brave, amazing people we know you already are.